All right, let's call this meeting to order. Ms. Dean, would you note who is present? It looks like we don't have Councilman Johnson yet. Is there a motion to?
Move to excuse.
Okay, seconded. And that ought to do it. All right, first thing on the list is agenda approval. See anything wrong with the agenda?
No.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that when the agenda is this short, we use a bigger font. It just fills the page better. But okay, we'll take the agenda as presented. And that takes us to, wait, do we have to vote on that?
Nope.
Okay, that takes us to public comment. Is there anybody here to say anything publicly about anything at all? I'm not gonna censor you.
Yeah, if you
All you'd need to do is raise your hand and, oh, well, look at that. There's somebody right over there. Come on up.
come up to the podium, state your name and which city you live in. And just to be clear, Chair, now that we're on recording, you're waiving the time limitation.
Waiving the time limit. Go ahead and take as much time as you need. Just give us your names and city residents.
Okay, my name is Sienna Nelson and I live in North Bend.
And I'm Elise Erickson and I live in Snoqualmie.
I'm sorry.
You guys are gonna have to talk way louder.
My name is Sienna Nelson and I live in North Bend.
And I'm Elise Erickson and I live in Snoqualmie.
We are part of the Mount High School girls swim team and the 3-time record breaking relay team and state bound relay team.
Yay.
Yes, so this Friday, yay. We're coming to talk to you guys about the pool. We would love a new pool for a number of reasons. First of all, we just got done with practice outside down in Snoqualmie at a private pool, which is honestly kind of hard for us to practice at because it's outside and it's freezing. And our boys team also practices out there from November to, what'd you say, like January?
I think so. Right?
Yeah,
When it's
so
snowing and cold.
They practice in the snow year round, or like during those months. And then we just think that we both have growing swim teams. Especially the boys team has gone from 9 people to about 30 people in a year, which so obviously a bigger pool would be very beneficial. We have no place to train anywhere else in the season because the club that we train at right now is only open to members. And if you are not a member, you are not allowed to train there. So we have no place to train. The nearest pool with a diving board is Issaquah, which means our divers don't train with us at all. And we often don't have meets with them. And if we do, it's away. Our home meets are very few because of the time that the pool can give us. And both of our past 2 years senior nights have been canceled due to weather. So our seniors have not gotten a senior night 2 years in a row because of the weather has canceled it. We're also a 4A school, and every other 4A school has a very big swim team. And the big part that we don't have a big swim team is we don't have a close pool. We have no home pool. We drive 15 minutes away every day to an outdoor pool. So obviously nobody wants to come to those meets, especially when they're outdoors. And yeah, I think a pool would honestly be great for the water safety, since water, like lessons, I took lessons in Issaquah. I know you took lessons.
I think I took lessons in like Bellevue.
Yeah, because there's no place to take lessons here. And the Skyview pool right now is so small. We had to train there last year because our outdoor pool actually had to close because of weather problems. And we could barely train because you can't train for us in a 16-yard pool, especially when you are competing in a 25-yard pool. So having a pool with like 6 lanes with diving would be honestly amazing, especially, with the water safety of the rivers and the drownings, and providing more, lessons, and just having a better and bigger swim team would be awesome. Anything to say?
I think you covered it.
Thank you.
Did you have a question?
Wait, don't go anywhere. All right, Mayor.
So how many girls on the swim team then?
There was 44 last year and 35 this year.
Okay.
And then I know the boys team, I think one year they had up to like 50 swimmers.
A few years back, yeah. So
So pretty big team.
yes.
Mr. Chambliss.
As a former swimmer,
Uh-huh.
I wish you nothing but luck on Friday as you go for the state championships.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we are the first
Do us
relay
proud.
team in history of the Mount Sinai Girls Swim Team to make it. So we are very happy. One of our own swimmers is going into events as well, Olivia. So yes, so
Congratulations.
Excellent. That's
thank
great.
you so much.
Councilman Holloway.
So, you might help us out because pool's a big pull.
Mhm.
One of the partners would be your school district.
Mhm.
So they have their school board next Thursday.
Okay.
It might be good for them to hear from you also
Oh, God.
about
Okay.
desire for pool. and everything
Actually,
else.
the superintendent's daughter is on the swim team too. So
I'm not sure that you can take that into
Inside job,
consideration.
I know.
It's a conflict of interest, but all right.
And you are not allowed to take that into consideration. It's
No.
still your responsibility to share your voice and your passion for this. I could hear, the argument that I would make, you guys are a state record holder in what now?
Medley relay.
yeah,
And then we also have, we have a state winning diver. And then one of our swimmers is going for 50 free and 100 free.
And we also
Wow.
hold all 3 relay records this year.
And you guys accomplished that with the facilities that you currently have available to you that you say are inadequate.
Think of what
What-
we could
It's very
accomplish
limited.
with.
Or what has that hardship done to grow you as people who overcome?
I mean, yes, it has, but it's also really hard for us to practice in that. Like all of us are sick at the end of the season because it's like we all have colds. We all are like dead because it's so cold.
You're young and healthy. You're supposed to get sick.
Yes, but like I said, like we don't have a diving board, which we get no divers, and our past 2 senior nights have been canceled because of either smoke or rain.
Well, I am going to break your heart and let you know that no matter what, I don't think you're gonna get a diving board in any facility that we make in Snoqualmie.
Well,
Because
We'll
the
take
depth
we'll
necessary
take
for that.
as much as we can get
Okay, well then, are we gonna see you at the school board meeting on Thursday?
if we can make it.
Probably.
Well, good. Any other questions?
Oh,
City Administrator Chambliss.
If your studies allow.
Oh, yes.
Grades first.
Yes. Thank
Yes. She has, yeah.
you. Thank you.
You guys make a strong case.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, did you have something else you wanted to say before we let
I-
him go?
I don't, but good luck.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for representing the city.
Thank
So,
you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
All right, that concludes our meeting. I think we, oh wait, is there more? There is more, isn't there? Oh, and Councilman Johnson is with us. Thank goodness. Councilman Johnson, did you have any questions for the ladies that just spoke with us?
I think that they covered it pretty well. I hope that them and others are willing to share the word with other organizations and levels of government that could be partners.
Well said. Okay, good. Is there anything, is there anyone else that we're seeing online who had public comment?
No, sir.
No, nobody? Okay, well then we will move on. Thank you. Okay, next on our
You don't have to
agenda
stay.
is discussion, right? Do we go to discussion from here?
Do you need to approve the minutes?
They need an approval in a minute, yeah. you need
Oh, approval of minutes. There we go. Did you guys see any problems with the minutes?
I have no issues with the minutes. Move to
Nope.
approve as presented.
Check.
They are approved. All right, and I'm going to approve all agenda bills on the docket just on my own, and let's move to discussion. The first thing on discussion is Snoqualmie Parkway discussion. I'm gonna guess Mr. Hamlin's gonna talk to us about that. Okay.
Okay, so committee. I wanted to just give you guys kind of a debrief on where we're at with the Parkway. As you know, the construction is complete, or I'd say nearly, it's 99.9% complete. We do have 1 or 2 items left to finish. We have a traffic signal out on Center Street, which is malfunctioning at the moment, and we'll get that sorted out. I think we figured that out. And then we have a couple of push button, for the crosswalks, which are kind of back ordered at this point to one of these supply chain issues. So those we are expecting at the end of this month. And so we should have that project completely wrapped up by the end of the year. Now, the second part of this is the route jurisdictional transfer. As you guys, I'm sure, are aware, that part of our endeavor here was to, one, get the parkway paved, but the other part was to transfer the parkway over to the state to become part of Highway 18 or an extension of Highway 18. The benefit of doing that, of course, would be to have the state take over maintenance of the pavement. That is really what we're looking for, some type of stable funding source to maintain the pavement for the parkway leading into the future. There are other potential drawbacks to that with having the state take over, but the city feels that is most beneficial to have that become part of the state. And because, yes, please.
What are those drawbacks?
Okay, so if the state takes over the pavement, or because that becomes part of the SR 18, they have control on access. So potentially they could clamp down on access to it, meaning if we wanted to do other developments within the city, we have to get their approval and concurrence with how we access the parkway, if it's their road. We also lose control of signage and signalization. The state would take over that. It would all become part of their ITS, their intelligent traffic signal or traffic systems approach to how they manage traffic. And they could potentially make decisions which might impact our land use decisions in the future. So that's something that may or may not be a huge problem for us. You can kind of look at SR 202 to kind of gauge, that level of involvement from WashDOT.
So for example, if we were going to try to put in another development and we needed access from that development to the parkway, we would have to go through the state for
Coordinate it through the state, correct?
Okay.
Right. And because of, the state owning essentially the roadway and how it might impact their intersection at Highway 90 or their interchange at SR 202, they could require additional improvements, or, they could even potentially deny us access to it. But I mean, that's maybe a stretch, but it's possible. They do that. So as part of the RJT application process, we submitted a request to the Washington State Transportation Commission to consider the parkway for a route jurisdictional transfers, which they call transferring it over. The route jurisdictional transfers, transferring it over to the state for ownership. WashDOT object to that. They don't want to take over the parkway. Primarily, I think it's because they don't have a consistent, stable funding source to maintain it. Right? It's one of the issues that WashDOT repeatedly brings up. It's they don't allot enough money in their budget to. Yes,
But when they didn't deny the transfer, didn't they in essence postpone
didn't deny it.
consideration?
No, they have not. Well, so it's not WashDOT's decision. It is the Washington State Transportation Commission's decision.
Huh?
They did not decide. Their decision was to defer, to wait.
Right, so they postponed decision.
Yeah, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So as we made our request, we submitted based on the set of criteria that the state has for allowing these route jurisdictional transfers to take place. There's several criteria, and you have to meet one or more of these criteria in order to apply for this transfer. We felt, based on the wording and the criteria, that we met those criteria. Without getting into too much detail, because it is kind of convoluted. We felt that we did. The Puget Sound Regional Council believed that we met the criteria. The Transportation Improvement Board felt we met the criteria. The Transportation Commission actually thinks that we meet the criteria. But WashDOT argued that we don't. And the problem is that the criteria are somewhat vague. The wording is not perfectly clear. So that our interpretation and WashDOT's interpretation differed. And they made a strong enough argument that based on the vagueness in the criteria, that we should take more time to work on these criteria. The criteria were developed back in the early 90s and haven't been updated since. And they feel very strongly that those criteria need to be updated. So the Washington State Transportation Commission decided that they will not decide at this point. They will wait for this study. The legislature decided that they were going to give Washington State Transportation Commission some funding to go perform a study to update these criteria, to review and update the criteria. And that report is anticipated to be done in late 2025. So presumably by 2025, when this report comes out, the new criteria will be established and then we can decide. And I think that's what WashDOT wanted. Washington State Transportation Commission agreed with it. And I think what WashDOT's angle here is that they're hoping that with a solid set of criteria, they can accurately predict what roads will be transferred to the state around the state. I mean, we're not the only one, right? There's maybe several others, and they're going to need to kind of look at a broader scale of how we designate certain roadways in the state. And especially on the west side, there's a lot of roads. And so once they have some clear idea about what roads will be transferred, they can develop some kind of a funding estimate on what it's going to take to maintain that, in which case, you know, they'll be able to plan for it. So I think that in 2025, and it's kind of an inevitability that the Parkway will become part of the broader state highway network. They, I think, are just angling for more time to do it. Now,
Is there a compromise where we can maintain control and they can just give us money regularly to do all the work?
that is an excellent idea. And that is something that we might consider and probably should. I think that would be for us the best of both worlds, right? If we could get some type of funding source, but maintain control of the roadway, then it would benefit us most. If the state takes over, then we have to wrestle with that other issue. There are other options. We could, if we're really keen on making this trade or making this happen, we could trade SR 202. And that was one of the suggestions that WashDOT threw out there. They said, well, typically when somebody comes and they say, hey, we want you to take over this roadway, it comes with an offer of a trade, meaning we don't want this road to be a highway anymore. We want you to make this other road the highway and the route through town that you that WashDOT maintains. And then you take back control of that other road. SR 202 would be that road in this case, right? So we would give the state, or we would take 202 back from the state and give the Parkway to the state.
Do you think that they would go for giving us 202 just from the intersection with the Parkway to the city limit down by North Bend, rather than us having, like a mile up to the falls?
I think they would look at that more favorably than just taking over the Parkway. However, it's not as easy as that because SR 202 continues through Snoqualmie and goes all the way into North Bend and through North Bend. So we can't really just take out one section of 202 and let it continue on, as a state highway as it goes through North Bend. So
Well, that's
North
what they've
Bend would
done
have-
with the 90 or with the 18, right? They've basically given us a section of the 18 and they
Well-
just haven't called it that.
Well, 18 was there before the Parkway. So, we built the Parkway. The state didn't build the Parkway.
Which I think was very kind of us.
Yeah.
Warehouse, but go on.
Right. So in this, as this has been deferred, we have till 2025 before this new study comes out, but it doesn't prohibit us from continuing to negotiate with the state and potentially find some other alternative agreement. And I think we've kind of discussed everything that we've been able to consider or thought of.
So-
One, try to argue for a stable source of funding, or trade, or wait. Yes.
Remember with Demo Holloway?
I'm confused at this stage.
Yeah.
Okay. An argument of I'd rather mother pay than I pay is not an argument for doing these kind of things. Okay, we need to be consistent on message that this portion of road is a connector between 18 and 202 and suffers due to the truck traffic engaged in there more than any other traffic. And that truck traffic is regional and should have a regional support for that cost.
Mhm.
End of statement. Who pays from there doesn't matter. It's a regional use of it, and region should be a regional expense. Stay on message. 2, where we start to get into those gray areas, guys, that's politics, and we need to be talking to state representatives and others about, we've gone a long way down this road, and to, not sure what exactly is going on here. But all parties, as you said, except for one, were pretty well in sync. Okay, so that's probably a discussion we need to take up to have others, but I don't see, again, 202 has been state road forever.
Mhm.
And we've done amazing things with 202. So I don't like the tail end parking, but for the most part, the relationship's been good with 202 as far as getting things through there. Okay, so I don't see there is some caution in the relationship with WashDOT, but it's been beneficial for the most part for the city. Okay, so I think if we run into issues of annexation and more things, we can talk and negotiate with them, and they're generally reasonable. Okay, so I don't see as them taking over as we relinquish all control. It becomes a partnership between us. So I'm really concerned. Are we not focusing on getting the parkway transitioned, or are we taking a step back? Because this sounds like a step back. And
Well-
I don't understand why.
Our application is still
Pending.
pending, but the Transportation Commission voted to not vote on it until this other study is done. So it's going to happen 2025, maybe early 2026. The swap for the 202 would also, it would require North Bend as well to turn it over to, that it would become a city highway, red highway. But there's some good things.
Right, but
to not
202
having
goes,
trucks going
202
through
goes
there.
beyond,
Oh,
it's not just Snoqualmie North Bend. There's a lot of 202.
yeah, but I think it would be,
But the
probably
rest
for
of
the
that 202
Parkway. Yeah,
up is not in discussion.
yeah, like.
Right,
Parkway area
what I'm not
and
understanding
90.
is why does the North Bend part of does North Bend help pay for the parkway?
No, but if you can't just take a center section out of 202 and leave North Bend hanging out there on an now orphaned portion of 202.
Right,
So,
there'd be like a mile-long stretch that would be detached from the rest.
yeah, you would in essence we'd have to negotiate transfer of 202 from the intersection at the Parkway all the way to I-90 in North Bend and have North Bend part of that conversation.
As well as other stakeholders.
Yeah.
And why on earth would North Bend agree to that? What I don't understand is
Question for North Bend.
what I don't understand is why is there that consideration for that segment of 202, but not the rest of 202 that keeps on going on and on and on through Fall City and all that?
Why would a city take on
Yeah.
202 through Fall City?
I'm not saying that we would. I'm saying that why in our negotiations with the state would we have to be concerned about the segment in North Bend?
The red to all the way up to Redmond is contiguous. It is all connected from the intersection at Parkway all the way up into 202 and beyond. I don't remember exactly where
Redmond.
202 ends. Where does it end?
Redmond.
It does end in Redmond. I was right. All right. Point for my navigation. So that remains contiguous and can be managed as an entity. If you take out this section here, it would be.
There's no way to get to it. It's just
No,
like,
it's a little piece of 202 off on its own, broken away. It has to be managed as a separate thing. It just complicates.
but it's still that segment of road is always there anyway. It's not, regardless of contiguity, if that is a word. That segment of the road has to be taken care of regardless. I don't understand why that.
Well, I'll say this, North Bend is actually interested in exploring the option. And I will say that majority of route jurisdictional transfers to about 5-1 are the opposite of what we're trying to do. It is local jurisdictions that want to take roads back from WashDOT because they want that control, usually to do certain types of development around the roadway and to avoid the restrictions that WashDOT sometimes places on them. So most route jurisdictional transfer requests are from local jurisdictions
Okay.
to take roads back from WashDOT.
That's it. Okay, that makes sense. Mayor?
So, I mean, there might be an opportunity if we did consider taking that portion of 202, where you can totally redo your downtown and not allow trucks barreling through the middle of your, between the train and the,
Do we allow barreling right now?
well,
Right.
25 miles an hour with a huge semi going through, seems like it's barreling through, right?
Right.
But you could do like one-way traffic heading, towards North Bend, and you can do another one-way coming on, past the Snoqualmie Falls Brewery. And so actually you can have like two sides of restaurants and shops and all kinds of, there's all kinds of, vision that you can have if you did that. But again,
It gives us maybe more options for developing downtown than we would otherwise have.
Apologies, I dropped off for just a minute there. I did want to just mention real quick here that one of the ideas that's come up is, well, we could just ban large trucks from going down the parkway. But there is that concern of then that traffic would have to rattle through downtown, which would be harmful for businesses. I'm not sure if that's come up in the conversation, because like I said, I just dropped off for a minute there. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that as well.
There's that, or there's tolling, we could do tolling. I think, I don't believe we have this anywhere in writing, but I believe that we have at least a verbal commitment that as part of getting the $5 million to repave the roadway, we promise not to put tolls on the road or otherwise
limit the truck.
limit the trucks.
Right.
Right. Because they realize that it's a regional route. It supports regional traffic, and shutting that off is going to have impacts to the regional traffic system. So everybody kind of acknowledges that this is one, part of a greater urbanized area, and two, this is part of the roadway network of this urbanized area.
So when we agreed not to toll, was that a forever and ever agreement?
I don't think there is any.
Because
there's
I'm
really-
fine with that,
Yeah.
but as long as their half of it is also a forever and ever agreement,
Well, I think that the promise, if it was a promise, was made to legislators, not to the Transportation Commission or to WashDOT.
Right. It was to not restrict trucks if they're going to spend $5 million to repave it, not to restrict trucks on the parkway. So, but if we, you could look at it several years down the road, maybe change your mind. But again,
$5 million goes only so far.
20 years. Right.
You think?
I
You think it's going to last 20 years?
it lasted 20 years before.
Did it though?
Well, it fell apart sort of at the end, but I mean, it was still serviceable. And I'll tell you, if WashDOT owns a road, they would look at that. They would have looked at that road and say, hey, that's fine. They wouldn't have gone and repaved it. Right. I mean, look at every other WashDOT road, right? See how they maintain roads.
I try not to.
Yeah, well,
So,
you drive on them and it's pretty clear. They typically will wait till the pavement is really spalling and falling apart, where the subgrade's damaged before they'll come in.
it does
and
make
repave.
driving more interesting though, it just keeps you awake. Yeah.
So anyway, that's where we're at right now. I think we will continue to work with WashDOT and the Transportation Commission. We'll keep up with this study. We have offered to provide our input in the criteria study that they're performing. WashDOT certainly in there trying to offer their opinions. And so, we asked to be involved as well. So we'll be keeping up with the study and trying to get our voices heard in the process.
Yeah, I think one concern that I have, I think Councilman Holloway was touching on it, is that it does seem like this is like we're going into sort of maybe a stagnant phase in these negotiations. And I know that I'd prefer we didn't, if there's a decision that's going to be made in 2025, I hope we're not just crossing our fingers till 2025. But I like the shaking of the heads. Yeah,
I've already given direction to interim director Hamlin to track the study. And be involved as much as we can be involved to follow along as it goes to make sure it's not veering a wrong direction. And if it does, to sound that alarm early.
good. Councilman Johnson, did you have anything that you wanted to add or ask?
Yeah, one last thing was just there's one particular sign that directs traffic to a rather important institution in the city that is totally inadequate. And my understanding is that has something to do with the fact that it's on 202. And if at some point we could just give the Northwest Railway Museum the opportunity to have a decently sized sign so people can actually be aware that they exist, that'd be really nice.
Does everybody know where this terrible sign is?
Yeah, on Stone Quarry Road. It's itty bitty. I don't think that anyone driving by would ever know that there's a train museum back there.
Was not aware of that, but yeah, I mean, we could entertain that. I believe,
Yeah,
again,
wayfinding
it's
signs,
202.
what we do on 202, we could put a wayfinding sign there in negotiation with WashDOT if we wanted to. So, yeah, take a look.
Yeah. We can do wayfinding signs. They have to meet the WashDOT, guidelines. And that may be why that sign is so small. I don't know, but I think that I haven't looked.
That's my understanding.
Yeah. Okay.
I had one, there was a very good point made in an email to the council about parking during big events. And it's something that we've discussed in the past, but we have a lot of city parking that is not always totally accessed. And it seems to me that we need better signage for the city parking to help people just know that it exists. Director Chambliss?
Community development is working on a master sign plan to hand over to Public Works. To
Oh, great. Okay.
get that taken care of. We're just waiting.
There
I
is
say
parking
we-
signs.
Jeff is waiting for the list of places to go. We're all set. Everything's purchased. We just need to know where to go put them.
Yeah.
We have inventory of signs now so that we can get them out quick.
We're developing the sign inventory. Yeah. And we do have a sign out there that points to parking, but it's rather inadequate. I mean, it's it's one sign and it might be somewhat obscure.
Well, I live here and you'd have to remind me of where that sign is.
Right.
So if you're not from around here and you're looking for parking, doesn't fill me with the highest of hopes that you
Mhm.
can be able to find it, or even know that this parking over here at the church is city parking that can be accessed. I think we should be advertising this parking more and encouraging more use of it to reduce the parking congestion
Mhm.
downtown for our businesses down there that are fighting for every space on busy weekends. It's fantastic the things that the Northwest Railway Museum does. It's wonderful for the city, but it could be even wonderfuler if we did a better job of accessing this parking that would open up more spaces for our local businesses. I'm sorry, I feel like we might have gone down a rabbit hole there. I apologize.
Okay.
Anything else on this one?
No,
I
unless you
think
guys
we're
have any
CIP
questions.
next, right?
Yeah.
I-
Sorry.
I think we're looking at the CIP.
CIP,
next.
yes, correct.
Is that right?
Dylan,
Are
gonna give that presentation.
we gonna take a gamble on that one? All right, let's go. CIP project completion updates.
Yeah. Okay, let me get set up and share my screen again so you can all squint trying to read the Excel document. This is the exact same presentation as last time, but what I wanted to do because we went so fast last time, is I didn't have a time or a chance to go through the projects that were completed as of now or are expected to complete by the end of this year. There's a couple of them, and I want to call out and I want to give an opportunity to answer questions now that you've had time to actually be able to read the Excel documents that I sent over. So I will just kind of zip over to this document here. This one here is the, just as a refresher, is kind of where I will go to look at where we stand financially for all the projects and programs in the CIP. Blacked out ones, the ones that we're not doing this biennium, and then the rest are categorized by percentage complete and dollars complete. You can see it on the two red slides. But the projects that I wanted to call out that are completely completed are the ERP project, the railroad lift station project, stormwater ponds, and this is a bit tricky, but the parkway. But obviously you just heard about how the parkway has a couple of closeout items. And that kind of leads me into what I wanted to get into further detail with regards to the remainder of the projects I want to describe. We oftentimes, especially when we're only in, I was going to say October, but November. So we've had 11 months to get going on some things. And oftentimes the project can get substantially completed. The work can be mostly done, and yet we'll be going through closeout projects like trying to find push buttons because they're out of supply, or we're waiting on water main going into place because we're waiting on meters because just those items are delayed in the supply chain. So we will sometimes like to say that we're pretty much done, but we're waiting on this one last thing, and then we'll wrap it up and tie it in a bow and we'll move on completely. But here are some projects that are in that we're just around the corner to complete and or we're substantially complete. And I can get into any of them in a further detail if you'd like. So I mentioned it before, but the street resurfacing program, we're done for this year. So we've completed the work that we anticipated doing this in 2023. We're going to do something similar next year in 2024. We'll keep going down our list of pavement management plan priorities and work our way through with an alternatives analysis. So not just paving, but we're going to look at slurry seals and things of that nature. We have the ADA transition plan document has been in review and we've been drafting it. Pat actually has been bringing it forward to council for review, and that part of the program is done. And now we're going to start to look at opportunities to implement the transition plan. It calls out a lot of roadways and intersections, and we will make sure that as we go through the sidewalk plan, street resurfacing, things of that nature, opportunistically going after those and using a bit of the funding that's remaining. Facilities maintenance plan. This is a program actually. There's a lot in here. And so we have the stairway in the back of City Hall, which is substantially complete. And I'm pretty sure we're actually all complete, right? No more touch-up paint? Yeah, so that's kind of what I mean is we're close on some things, but sometimes touch-up paint shows up as an item. And then we're standing here saying we're done, but we're not quite. In addition to that, there's a couple decisions we'll need to be making on how to close out that program for the biennium. We have urban forestry, and that's the repair to the trees up on the ridge that were blown down during windstorms. That work has been completed this year. And for the foreseeable future, assuming that we don't have some kind of, I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to step away from that. The weather's going to be delightful this winter. There will be no issues.
Headed into the season when many things fall.
There's a lot of wood in here. I'm knocking very thoroughly. So no one heard that. It's going to be a great winter. And then the last one I want to talk about is Sandy Cove restoration. And I showed you a slide before. I haven't updated this because I didn't want to change anything on you so that you could ask me exactly. That was from the last meeting. It looks pretty much like it does as you see it here. It doesn't change much outside of kind of like the finalization. So we've added the hydro seed, things of that nature. It's still blocked off. I don't want people walking out there and ruining our hydro seed job, but the project is substantially complete for this year. And so we're going to be looking at how to complete phase 2 right now. And so we're going. So we're not done with Sandy Cove bank stabilization, but we're done with the phase 1. So I'll stop kind of going high speed on you and see if there's any questions or any items in particular on the list you'd like me to go back and go into further detail on. I'm happy to do that.
Very good.
Can you just remind me again what the status is on the all-inclusive playground?
Oh, thank you. I actually wrote it down a little more complicated. I wanted to say it was going to be 100% complete by the end of the year, and I'm pretty confident that that's where we are. But right now, the park has been demoed entirely, and we are now on the constructing it. I just get scared of putting out guesstimates like that because I just find that things are crazy with construction, but I'm very confident we'll be completed by the end of this year. I'm thinking we'll actually be completed sometime in mid-December. That's my guess as of right now. But if we have really crazy weather, I might have to delay some of the concrete work, but I don't see that being a likelihood either. We are pretty much completely demoed. There are some materials on the site, such as like some scrap from the previous the equipment, and then there is soils and materials that are going to go into the sensory garden that are there as well. So right now we have equipment on site ready to be installed. We have holes to be dug for foundations of that equipment, and that's going to be happening the next few weeks as we go. They're kind of do it in a staggered kind of way to kind of take advantage of their team and equipment and machine inventory, that kind of thing. So that's where we stand right now. To follow up with that is once we have the equipment in the ground, we're going to start working on that turf and that sensory garden. And the sensory garden probably won't be planted till the spring, so we can keep all the plants alive. That's the plans there.
So help me with the statement you started with. The ERP project is done?
The CIP funding has been spent. So the ERP project as a
Thanks.
whole, yes. Sorry, that it's maybe a point of refinement that we'll take into consideration when we bring about the next iteration of the CIP, so that we don't end up with programs that are not completely encompassed within the CIP, or we want to show and indicate that this, for example, the ERP is essentially just the capital component of the ERP upgrade. So that represents the funding towards the ERP from the CIP budget. A little confusing. It doesn't represent a project or a program in the traditional sense. All right.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And that brings us to community center expansion update.
The girls do.
Okay, so our last community expansion update was our last council meeting. So not a lot has been accomplished, but I think what I wanted to express is, one, what we heard from council and what we're doing now to prepare. So obviously next is another presentation coming. What we heard is council would like more information about how we went from the citizens advisory group, input from the community and those outreach activities, and how that got transferred into the design and the options that we presented to you. So we are actually going to basically download all that information, kind of unpack it for you, because, you know, the presentation was kind of at a higher level and I was moving through that fairly quickly. We're going to break that down a little bit better. So we're going to present to you the results, and this essentially a summary of the advisory committee process, and then how that turns into design principles, project objectives, design criteria, and a programming report, which is essentially the result of all of that, and how that turns into a schematic design. Okay, so I'll give you a lot more information as it's presented. It's difficult for me to kind of describe it to you, other than to say that there is a very definite process that is followed to do this sort of thing. And we will be presenting that to you at the council, well, at committee, our committee meeting on the 21st, I believe. So we'll present kind of a dry run of that material to you at that time, and then full council on the 27th. And of course, we should have a clearer idea about where we're at with funding at that point as well. So the other thing is, as far as progress goes, we did have a lead kickoff meeting. We are anticipating, as part of the WISE general commitment, to funding, that if we want to get commerce funding, we need to do LEED Silver. We need to accomplish LEED Silver certification. So we began that process, and that was actually encouraging. I think that just based on the configuration of the building and how it lays out, we'll be able to obtain LEED Silver. So that is good news for us seeking funding from the Commerce grants. So we have our design development kickoff meeting. So we are taking our very first step into the design development side. So we go from schematic design, which is where we're at now with our options, and we're moving into design development, which is essentially what you would consider the first phase of final design. We haven't made decisions yet. We don't have funding sorted out. So we're going to be cautious on this step, and we're going to proceed in ways which we're not wasting our time or not wasting money. We don't want to waste any work. So there are some things that are going to be common with any option that we use. And so we are going to kind of focus on those areas, and then essentially developing a base model for how we move forward with our design. So like I said, we're being cautious, but we have about a month of float in here, and we're going to move carefully in the next few weeks as we progress. So that's where we're at. It's not a whole lot of information to give you there, but that is, I want to keep you guys up to date on our steps so that you're fully informed. Any questions?
Councilman Johnson, anything from you?
Not yet.
Okay. Nothing, Councilman Holloway? Okay, all right. Your eyes said otherwise.
We did get some good information from the YMCA at our last at the lead meeting. We kind of broke off and had a discussion about essentially how the Y interprets from the financial model the different options, right? So obviously in the process of design, what we're trying to do is develop an optimized configuration, right? So we have our criteria, essentially, what the community has told us, what the Y has told us, because, you know, in order to be a successful facility, we need to develop it so that it serves the most people and generates the most revenue, right? It's an optimized design. That is our ultimate configuration. Every design option that we proposed, alternative design option that we propose, is something less than that. That, of course, is to try to save money. But for each one of those alternative options, it comes with a decline in services or a decline in functionality. And so what's kind of missing in our analysis of these alternatives is a clear definition of what are we not getting if we go with option 2 as opposed to option 1, or as opposed to the ultimate option. So the YMCA got together with a group of their folks and looked at kind of a study of each of their other facilities that have different capabilities. And they gave us a pretty clear-eyed estimate of how each of these alternatives is going to perform when it's juxtaposed with the ultimate option. So we will be presenting that to you as well. And I'm hoping to get Josh in here to do it, because he gave us a really good 10-minute presentation and explanation of it. So we'll bring that forward to you with our presentation.
Thank you.
That's it. All right.
And I think that brings us to the end. Yeah.
Yep.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.